This should not be new for any of you, but if it is, it's not that difficult. Okay, so there's our mechanism, and it's quite a beauty. And we need to make a blueprint of every part. One, two, three, four parts. That means we're going to have 4 sheets in our blueprint. You can also make a cover sheet with a nice, a nice image of this thing. Maybe you put it in perspective, and maybe you turn shading off, and you get a nice image output, and that could make a nice cover page if you guys are trying to really sell your product. Okay, but forget all that. Let's create a drawing. Okay, click plus here, create drawing. Remember, the ANSI numbers or letters are the size of the paper, so we're going to click OK for ANSI A. That is your printer paper. When you open up a new drawing, it automatically opens up the tool to insert something. So you will see right here, it's about to insert a view. That's this tool. So we're going to pick not a sketch, not a curve, not a part studio. We're going to go down here, not an assembly. We're going to pick the part studio, open this one up, and there's our part. So we'll start with the arc guide, which is a tremendous part, and we're going to put it in here. Now, the first view you put down is kind of, we call it the mother part or the master. So I don't want this side view to be that view, and that is actually the front orientation. So I'm going to pick the right orientation, right side orientation. That gives me that. Now that looks good. So for this part, that's a good size as well. If you came up and your part came up, say 1:1 scale, you're not going to have enough space for all your views. And if it comes up, say quarter scale, there's no need for it to be that tiny. So I think that 1/2 scale is going to be perfect for this component in this configuration. So we're going to click it to stick it, and now OnShape automatically skips us over to the next tool, projected view. So now we can project from this view. We'll say a top view, and then we're going to use the same tool. We're going to click this master view, and we're going to project a side view, and then we're going to project, click it and stick it, an isometric. Okay, because we like isometrics. Not really necessary, but that could not do anything but help the people trying to manufacture this part. And press escape, and there you have your views. Okay, now one thing I'm going to mention, I mentioned in my class, we don't need all this info down here, and it takes a lot of space, so I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to put a box around it carefully, and I'm going to press delete. Okay, it also got rid of that line, so I can put a line from here down to here to seal our box back off. Okay, escape. All right, so now we've got a good situation to start adding dimensions. Okay, now dimensions, there are literally books on dimensioning and strict rules for this stuff. Once again, I'm not holding us to professional engineering standards here, but I want to show you something on our Haiku page. On the OnShape CAD page, we have something called CAD Blueprint Standards. I have kind of whipped this together to give us a shortcut, concentrated, highly concentrated, and it's a PDF file, idea about what you want to, the main points. Okay, so communicating all necessary information for manufacturing. Okay, ask yourself when you say, I'm done, can I make this part? Clarity. Okay, clarity. If there's any confusion, it's going to cost the manufacturer time at best, and it's going to cost money because time is money. It could cost you your job if it's costing enough money. And so this is important. Clarity is very important. All right, so overall tips about putting views in, and then tips about dimensions. Okay, when you add your dimensions, go through this and say, okay, did I do this? Check it out. Did I do this? Check it out. Go through this as a checklist. And then some other topics, title box, and notes. Okay, so this is your guide, is what I'm going to be doing when I assess your work, um, in terms of creating complete blueprints, and that's right here, CAD Blueprint Standards. So let's add some dimensions here, and then we'll add a couple more sheets to our to our um, to our packet here. So here we go. Now this is an interesting part because we have lots of these arcs here. So remember, putting dimensions, the tool is right here, and you down arrow, and you have all these different types. 2-point, point to point, very useful. Point to line, line to line. Okay, corners are points, edges are lines. Now line to line angular. Okay, for this, I'm going to need to tell them how wide of an arc this opening is, so that's going to come in handy. Radial dimension, we're going to need to know the radius of these curves here. Okay, so if I click this, notice it puts that center point. I can bring a dimension right up into our field here, and I can do the same for this one. And you want your dimensions to kind of line up if possible. You want them kind of to match if possible. Uniformity is vital, folks. So let's create a uniformity in the way we do this. And if you notice how I'm doing this, I'm trying to have them line up. I'm not cramming them together. Like if I put them in here, nothing should touch. All right, social distancing for your dimensions. And there you go. Okay, so now the fabricator knows the exact radius of all those parts. And I can even put a center mark. That little tool allows you to put a center mark. So usually it's used for things like a circle, but I can put it for an arc, and that's going to give them a nice point to measure off of. Okay. And actually, that is a very important point, because that point is where all these arcs are derived. The reality, folks, is that for a part like this, you need to put dimensions on where that point lives in relation to something else. So if I can access that point, it doesn't seem to let me. Point to point here, let's see, point to point. You know, if you're laying this out on some type of equipment for manufacturing, that would be important. So there we go. 4.476 inches, and then also the point-to-point height of this thing. F for fit. Get this thing back. All right. So this part is unique. Some parts that you're creating are going to be very simple, and this OnShape is not playing nice right now. Let's try this again. Point to point. All right. I don't know if it's my network or what, but you get the point. Sorry, point to point. Let's do it, dude. Now my video is going to be way longer than I wanted it to be. All right, so we need to measure a lot of these great things for manufacturing, and I'll help you guys and gals. Okay. All right. First draft. You're handing in a first draft. Line to line angular dimensions. Well, now from here to here is what angle? That's a critical dimension. We're going to put him out here. 48.6 degrees. And we'll also do from here to here. And we're going to bring that one up, 56.6 degrees. All right. We should probably reference this to this as well, because, you know, how do they know how far to make, where to start that arc? Okay, so it looks funky, but it's given these guys in the shop the info they need to know. Now, another thing you might want to do is to add hidden lines. Okay, so if you two-finger click your view, you can show hidden lines. And that's going to give us the information about how these holes get cut in. Okay, same thing on this view. That might be handy. That might be handy information. All right. Other things like redundant dimensions. Well, you don't need to dimension every hole here because you know they're all the same size, and by dimensioning one, you will tell the manufacturer that same bit of information. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to call out 1/4 inch, and they're going to say, oh, well, that means it's the same. That's great. Okay. Put like dimensions in the same view. So if I'm going to dimension the distance between these two holes here, and I'm going to be like psyched about that, you don't want to dimension the distance here between here and here. You don't want to do that down here, okay? Because that's putting dimensions that are like in different parts, in different views here, you know? So the pattern of these holes, the dimensions for that pattern should be grouped together, all right? So this dimension here should be up here, all right? Like dimensions stick together, okay? 1030, and there you have it. All right. So there's some basic tips on dimensioning. And this part had some unique shapes, so that's something that I know we didn't see last year. All right, now, what I would actually do is I would create all my sheets first. All right, so how to make a new sheet. Click here, plus insert sheet. Now I've got a blank sheet, and I can insert a view. Right here, we're going to insert a part, and I'll pick the next part, which for me is the crank arm. Okay, and I'm going to put a view. I don't want the front view. I want the right view, just like the last. The uniformity, folks. Right view, that looks pretty small. Should be a bit bigger. Let's go 1:1 scale for this part. There we go. It looks a little better. And now we're going to automatically insert a projected view up here, top view, and I'm going to project a side view and project an ISO. Once I have my views down and everything looks pretty good, let's make our third sheet. Okay, so make your sheets with all your views all at once. That helps you stay uniform because you're doing every step to completion. All right, we're going to pick the part known as the link. And there you have it, folks. The link. Right side view, in my case. We're going to project the top. We're going to project the side. And we're going to project the ISO. How nice-o. All right, click it and stick it. This looks a little bit small, so I'm going to escape. If you double-click a view, or double-click, brings up the view properties, and we can go 1:1. And since this is the master part, the mother part, they all change. Okay, there you have it, folks. And I would make another part for another sheet for the other part. Okay. All right. So that's that. Another thing to look at, if you're like, what is going on? Go to OnShape.com. Go to Learn. Learning Center. Self-paced tutorials. All self-paced courses. And you will find this fundamental course on drawings, okay? And within this course, there's 20 little short videos about all the separate little info, okay? All these things, dimensioning, center line. I mean, there's so much in here. It's great. Starting a drawing, inserting views, and they're all short, a couple minutes apiece. These videos are awesome. They'll get you started, okay?